Two cups in your system. You bad and you know it. Don't be afraid to show it off.
All right, so one of the first things that you need to know your conversions. When you get onto these problems, typically you're gonna have to make 1 to 2 conversions between the problems. You can't just, in most cases, you won't be able to just get right into answering the question. You have to convert it into what you actually have. So let's say the doctor orders Tylenol, however many milligrams, the doctor orders 500 milligrams of Tylenol, but however, all you have available are grams. You're gonna have to make a conversion in order to solve that problem so you can know what you need to administer. And obviously you can do a lot of this in your head, but it's always best to just work it out so you know that you can get the best answer. So for the first thing, conversions. When you're going from a conversion that goes from a smaller unit to a larger unit, you need to move that decimal place of that particular number. You need to move it 3 places to the left. So milligrams are smaller than grams. Let's say you have 500 milligrams. Well, you need to convert that to grams. So since it's a 500, that means the decimal would stop here. You need to move it 3 places to the left. 1, 2, 3. So 500 milligrams is equal to 0.5 grams. Now take notice as to when I wrote the 0.5 grams, I put a 0 right here in front of it. That's known as the leading 0 in nursing. Whenever you have a dosage calculation question, always put the 0 in front or they will mark it wrong. Always include the 0. If there's a decimal point here, always include the 0 in front of it, and always put the unit of measurement, or they will mark it wrong. You may get lucky and get a professor or instructor who won't be as ornery about that, but if I were you, I would just get in the habit of always having your leading 0 and always having the unit of measurement where applicable. Now also the opposite is a different story. Notice how when I wrote the 500 milligrams, I didn't put 500.0. No, this is called a trailing 0. And that's something that you don't do in nursing school. So if you're like solving another dosage calculation question and they're like, okay, go and solve this question, then you get an answer and your answer is 20, you don't put 20.0. They're gonna mark that wrong. What you do is you just put 20, then you put the unit of measurement. Let's say it's grams. Just put 20 grams. 20 grams, and let's say they want tabs, 20 gram tabs, and that's gonna be your answer. Now, just as when we went from a smaller unit to a larger unit, how we moved the decimal place 3 places to the left, the opposite is true when you're going from a larger unit to a smaller unit. So now we got that 0.5 grams from before. Let's say we want to turn that 0.5 grams back into milligrams. Well, since you're going from large to small, the decimal place is already here. You're moving 3 places to the right in order to convert a larger unit to a smaller one. So 0.5 grams would be 1, 2, 3. Decimal stops here, fill that in with zeros, 500 milligrams. And obviously you can put 2 and 2 together just by looking at this here, but that's just the basic concept so you know how to do the conversions. In addition, I wrote down a couple of abbreviations here, like whatever program, obviously these are gonna be universal, you don't need to know these, but they're gonna be way more abbreviations than this. I just put these here as a rule of thumb, like you need to know what your abbreviations are, like suppository, tablets, capsules, drops, milligram, microgram, by mouth, kilogram, twice a day, after meals, before meals. These are just a fraction of the abbreviations you need to know when you get into school. And a good way to practice these is flashcards. I use flashcards for everything, but that's a good way to practice your abbreviations. And it's just here as a rule of thumb again, that you need to know what these are when you're solving these problems, or you're not going to know what it's asking you. All right, we know our abbreviations, we know the basic rule of thumb for conversions. Now we need to know the formula so we can actually begin solving the problems. There are 3 methods that I've been taught: the ratio method, the proportion, and then the formula method. I'm not even going to include the ratio method in this video because quite frankly, I don't understand it and I'm not adequate or equipped enough to teach y'all about that, so I'm not even going to mention it. This, what you see here, this is the proportion method. It's set up as two individual fractions. The first fraction is supply over what you have, and the second one is X over the doctor. So let me just explain this briefly. Supply is what the drug comes in. So let's say you have a bottle of Tylenol. The supply would be 1 because you have a singular bottle of Tylenol. And then what you have would be the dosage of that you have on hand. So let's say it's 50 milligrams. It'd be 1 bottle would be the supply, so 1 supply of it, and then you have 50 milligrams. So that's what that is. Over here, X, this is what you're solving for. That's what you're solving for. And a lot of people, they may get confused. They're like, okay, how do I know where the answers of these fractions go? Well, you know that X is what you're solving for, so X will always be on the left side of that equal sign when you're beginning to solve and simplify the proportion. And then here, the doctor, this is what the doctor is ordering. So we'll go further in depth with that when it's time to actually solve a problem. Next over here, this is the formula method. It's whatever the doctor orders over what you have times the supply. So in that same scenario, the doctor is going to say let's say he wants 100 milligrams. So that would go here. It'd be 100 milligrams. What we have on hand, just like I said with this one, what we have on hand is 50. And then it comes in 1 bottle of Tylenol. So the supply would be 1, So it's the doctor's order over what we actually have times the supply. And then that's what you administer. So let's try an example. So here's the problem. Let's say that the doctor is ordering nafcillin 500 milligrams by mouth after meals. Now what we have available is a 1 gram tablet. So as you can see, that's 500 milligrams. This is 1 gram. We're going to have to make a conversion. So that's the first thing we're going to do. Another general rule of thumb, whenever you're making conversions, you don't convert what you have into the doctor's order. You convert the doctor's order into what you have because that's what you have on hand and you have to work with what you got. So the doctor wants 500. He wants 500 milligrams. We're not using that because we have grams. So we're going to turn this into grams. This is a smaller unit and we're going to a larger one, which means we need to move the decimal 3 places to the left. So 500 milligrams is going to become 0.5 grams. And now that these are in the same unit of measurement, we can now begin calculating the problem. Okay, guys, so stay with me. Don't get confused. Remember, this 0.5 grams, this is not what we have. That is the conversion of the doctor's amount. So what we have as our supply, we have 1 tab. So 1 is going to be our supply. And then what we have on hand as what we have available, that is 1 gram. So 1 is going to go here. And then set up your proportion, put a little multiplying sign, or you can just leave it blank. And then X always goes here because that's what you're solving for. Put another line to set up the fraction, and we just converted this here. This is what the doctor wants. It's not 500 milligrams because we converted it to grams. So you put the 0.5 grams here. Now that we have it set up, now we can start simplifying this. So you cross multiply with proportions. We're going to go this way first, and we'll do that one. So 1 times X, that's just going to equal X. And you'll know where to put X again because X always goes on the left side of the equal sign, because that's what you're solving for. X is going to equal something, not something is going to equal X. It makes sense both ways, but I think it'd just be easier to just keep it on the left side. And then now you cross multiply the other way. 0.5 times 1, that's going to equal 0.5. 0.5, don't forget to put your unit of measurement. Grams is what you would administer. But to verify this, you need to refer back to the question. Well, the question says nafcillin 500 milligrams by mouth after meals. See, this is a question that is designed to trick you. The answer isn't actually 0.5 grams because it says after meals. How many meals do you typically eat in a day? Breakfast, lunch, and dinner, which means that's 3 meals. So if you're taking 0.5 grams after breakfast, lunch, and dinner 3 times a day, you need to multiply 0.5 times 3. So the answer isn't 0.5 grams. The answer is 1.5 grams. And again, we got that by multiplying 0.5 times 3. And that was indicated to do that based on this abbreviation, which is why it's important for you to know, because this abbreviation means after meals. Now, what I like to do when I get an answer with the proportion method, because the proportion is my go-to method, but what I always do for each and every problem that I do is that I verify it with the formula method. And again, the formula method is what the doctor orders over what you have on hand times the supply. Again, the supply is 1. The doctor ordered 0.5 grams, and then what we have on hand is 1 gram. So 0.5 divided by 1 is 0.5, and then 0.5 times 1, again, is going to equal 0.5. But again, this is why you always need to read that question carefully. You refer back to this. After meals, that means you multiply that times 3 for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, 3 meals a day, and then you get 1.5 again. Now your final test, looking at this 1.5 grams, what's the problem with it? You know, after a little few seconds just to think about it, I hope you realize that there is no unit of measurement here. Do not forget to write the unit of measurement. It's not 1.5 grams, 1.5 gram tabs. All right, all jokes aside, now this is your final answer.